Okay, let's continue with the remaining bits of the instance. So the next component that we see inside the instance is called the SGA. Okay, the SGA stands for Shared Global Area. Okay, like PGA stood for Program Global Area, SGA stands for Shared Global Area. Okay. Now, the difference between SGA and PGA is that PGA is dedicated to each and every session that is connected to the database, right? It is private to that specific session. Whereas the SGA, it is applicable or it is available to each and every session in the database. Okay, so that's why it is called as a shared global area. Whatever component or whatever information that will be present inside the SGA, it is a shared resource, shared component for all the sessions that are going to be connected to the database. That's why the name shared global area. Now, inside the SGA, the first and the foremost important component that we see is the shared pool. Okay, so shared pool is basically why the name as shared pool. It is going to be storing some or the other information, that is, it is going to have a pool of information which is shareable for all the users in the database. That's why the name shared pool. Okay, and what information exactly does it share? So that we will get to know when we discuss the subcomponents inside the shared pool. So the first component that we see inside shared pool is called the library cache. Okay, now again the name.
Hello, Dhruv.
Yes,
I'm unable to see your screen. It's just showing that has started screen sharing, but I'm unable to see your screen.
I think I have shared it. Let me try it again. Is it visible now?
Shama, is it visible for you?
Your voice is breaking, Deepak.
But your screen is not
Shanmugh,
coming up.
Shanmugh, do you see my screen? I have shared the architecture
Not
diagram.
it's still sharing, like it's showing like screen sharing, but it's not shared completely.
Stop share. Let me try it again. Entire screen. Share. Do you see it now?
Same. Still showing black screen.
No, not
Now,
yet, Dhruv.
is it because I am not the presenter or what?
Not like that. Not like that.
No, it shouldn't be the case. But
Like
actually, your screen is not able to load itself.
Now is it visible?
yes, it is visible now.
Okay.
Yes, it is visible.
I have opened it in PPT mode now. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, it's visible now. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Uh, Okay, so we are going to focus now on the shared pool present inside the SGA. Okay, so what I was saying about shared pool was that it is again going to be sharing some, or it is going to be storing some or the other information. Okay, it is like a pool of information which is available to each and every session connecting to the database. Okay, and inside shared pool, the first component that we get to see is the library cache. Okay, you will understand why is it called a library cache. Okay, when we go through the functionality of the library cache and the subcomponents that you see inside library cache. Okay, So to be able to understand the purpose of the library cache, we have to go back to the same example that we were taking previously for checking the users, or say for finding the employees of a specific location, reporting to a specific manager. Shanmugh, can you go on mute, please?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I thought I was in mute.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah. Which session, which window do you see right now? I have opened the notepad example window.
I can see that architecture now.
Okay, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
try to
If you
share it
haven't shared the
again.
whole screen, click on the share and you can see the
Free.
windows.
I was sharing that only first, the whole window, but then it was not loading for you guys, so I had to choose a specific application. Let
Okay.
me try that again, no problem. Entire screen. Do you see the notepad now?
It's still showing.
no, Dhruv.
Shanmukh, you on mute, please. Yeah, again. Window, notepad. Now it will be visible. Notepad is visible.
Yeah, it is visible now.
Okay. So coming back to this example, what we see here is, let's say that the user has fired this query: select employees from EMP, from EMP where manager ID equals to 1. Okay. Now, what is going to happen in this case if we see the flow of query execution from beginning? Okay. So the user starts the application. So a user process got created on his system. Okay. The he provides the credentials. Those credentials are basically received by the listener. The listener process creates the server process. The server process will validate, say, the credentials. If the credentials are valid, then a session will get established, and the server process will also create a PGA for that user. Okay. Now the next bit is, the user is connected to the database and he has fired this specific query. Okay. So in this query, again, those components that we discussed for PGA, like the runtime area, okay, the persistent area, the session memory, okay. So all those components of PGA will come into picture when this query has been fired. Now you should be able to understand it in a better manner with the help of the flow of query execution. Okay. So that is still about the PGA, but we are now concentrating on the SGA part. Okay. So once this query is to be executed in the database, what Oracle server does is, the text of this specific query, okay, the text of this specific query, it gets converted into something called as a hash value. Okay. And that hash value, in terms of Oracle, we call it as an SQL ID. Okay. So what exactly is an SQL ID? An SQL ID is only pointing to a specific SQL statement in the database. Okay. So every statement or every unique statement in a database, it will be identified using a SQL ID. Okay. So when the user has fired this query, internally Oracle needs to assign an SQL ID to that specific statement. And what it does, how it generates that SQL ID, by generating a hash value on the text of this specific SQL statement. Okay. So let's say that the SQL ID has been generated. Okay. And it may look like something like this. Let's say, take an example. Okay. Now After this SQL ID has been generated, Oracle has to do couple of checks as well. Okay, what are those checks? Syntax checks and semantics checks. What are syntax checks and semantics checks? Okay, so in case of SQL, any specific statement that is fired, internally the query engine has to verify whether the syntax of the query is correct or not. Okay, so a wrong example of this specific query would be something like this: S triple E. Okay, and rest on it will remain same. Okay, now this query, it is syntactically not correct. Okay, because of this mistake in the spelling for the select keyword. Okay, so the syntax of the query needs to be checked. The other thing also that needs to be